Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. On today's show, we have a very special guest, award-winning film composer Matthew David Wheeler. He will be joining us a little later. If you'd like to leave a gratuity for this show, please do so at Venmo or PayPal. You'll find those links in the show description. And as always, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, connect with me on Facebook, and become a regular supporter on Patreon, where you will get exclusive content that you will find nowhere else. So today's show, I really felt like opening with a little bit from the classical repertoire, so I picked a lovely short piece by none other than George Frederick Handel. This is the Largo in G. So, you know what? Without deadlines, nothing would ever get done. Now, do you think I have these shows like planned out weeks in advance? No. Did I secure today's guest well ahead of time? No. Was I busy rewriting this monologue just a few minutes ago? Oh, yeah. Now, when I was a teenager, I had a job as a music director at a Catholic church, and after about a year or so, I had a pretty good handle on picking out the hymns for Sunday, so I got into the habit of arriving like 20, 30 minutes before Mass time, and quickly going through the missal, pick out 4 hymns, and off we went. Now, most of the time, I did pretty good, but there were times when I really picked out a doozy. Like the time I picked O Joseph, mighty patron, for Mother's Day. On one Sunday, I actually failed to pick out an opening hymn and didn't notice that until Mass had started and the priest and everybody were marching down the aisle. A responsible teenager, I was not. Now, a buddy of mine, Blake Jones, who's a songwriter, sent me a little anecdote of his, because musicians always seem to be running on short deadlines. And Blake writes, he asked us if we wanted to participate in an album where different bands would do different versions of Jingle Bells, each putting their own spin on the classic. He had a date that he needed the recordings by, so zoom, we write the song, zoom, we rehearse it with the band, zoom, we record it, and zoom, we send it off. And in my life, I've always found myself in positions where I've had to create these self-imposed deadlines, and I have to force myself to stick to them. But it seems that, like, well, for these weekly shows, no matter how much I try to stick to my schedule during the week to get everything lined up, I very often find myself scrambling with some detail at 10 a.m. to get the show on at 11 a.m. And today, just for fun, the setup that Matt and I had put together wasn't quite working, and I had to change things about 2 minutes before we went on. So it's always exciting here. Now, deadlines, well, they are important. And on April 12, 1961, Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first person in space. The Soviet Union had long had plans to dominate space. Now, we over in the United States were completely blindsided by this. We had a space program, but apparently there weren't any really hard, fast deadlines involved. But the very next month, on May 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American to fly in space. And then, on May 25th, 1961, before a joint session of Congress, with just 15 minutes of space flight completed, John F. Kennedy declared this: I believe this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. Kennedy set a hard deadline for this goal. Now, what if instead he had gone before Congress and said something like, you know, I think maybe someday, when we got all our ducks in a row, when we got nothing else to do, if it's not too much trouble, maybe we can think about, oh, I don't know, going to the moon or something. Without Kennedy's hard, fast deadline, I don't think we would have ever got it done. That end of the decade deadline was both urgent and possible. And on top of that, there were two tragedies that actually brought the moon project into greater focus. Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. And his loss only made us work harder towards fulfilling the moon landing goal. But then on January 27th, 1967, the entire space program was called into question. On that day, astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee were in the Apollo 1 spacecraft for a dress rehearsal for their upcoming flight. Suddenly, a fire broke out in the spaceship. The three astronauts fought hard to open the hatch. The ground crew rushed in and worked hard to open the hatch. It took 5 minutes to get the hatch off. It was too late. Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee were dead. The official story was that the men died instantly, but we all knew that wasn't true. That was just a story we were telling ourselves to assuage our pain for what had really happened. It looked like the moon landing was finished. But this tragedy only steeled our resolve. You know, it was bad enough that 3 talented astronauts were dead. It would have been even more tragic if we had just given up and let them die in vain. The faults in the Apollo spacecraft were fixed, and the program continued. And on July 26, 1969, Apollo 11 took off and successfully completed John F. Kennedy's end-of-the-decade deadline. I think deadlines are something we all kind of hate and dislike and try to avoid, but you know what? They are really important. But it's also important that they be reasonable. Somehow, though, we really need them. Now, there are many careers that seem to have nothing but pressing deadlines, and one of those careers is film score composer. And here to talk to us today is award-winning film score composer Matthew David Wheeler. And where is our call?
I'm here.
You're here, but
I'm
somehow I don't have your picture. Let's see.
It's probably for the best.
I don't know about that. Let's see if I can get you to come up here. Nope. But we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Okay, well, doggone it. It'd be nice if we could see you too. Well, we got that up. Let's try this.
Don't you love technology?
I love technology. I really do. I love it when it works. Let's see here.
That is what we all say as composers too. It's great when it works.
Now I think I may have solved it. Nope. Somehow I gotta get your window up front.
Find me. I'm in the back. I'm hidden.
Let's see here. Yep, we got that right. And I hate to have to do, I've got you up front. Wonder if
Call me back.
I really don't want to do that. My God. Everybody's getting to look at, there we go.
The behind the scenes.
Well, they're looking at the, I managed to get the YouTube screen up where it shows all the statistics as the broadcast is going on. But it looks like now I have got you into the broadcast software, and we can talk a little bit, and people can see you. So, Matthew, thanks you so much. This is obviously the first time I've ever set up something like this, and thanks for your patience, and thanks to the audience for your patience as well. So, let's get started. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Wow. Well, hi. My name is Matthew David Wheeler, and I am a film composer, along with many other things I do. I was born and raised in the Central Valley, and I went to Fresno State, where I got my bachelor's and as well as a master's in music composition, and then I went overseas where I got a second master's in film scoring, and that's where it kind of started to begin. I have to admit that I did not I've always wanted to score for film. I think a lot of composers do. I never thought I would do it, to be honest. In fact, anybody who has a brain would not want to do this job. Because it's crazy. It's crazy, and it's not what a lot of people think. There's a lot of hats you need to wear, and but it keeps pulling me back. It's one of those things where I tell people I did not choose this job. This job chose me, and I just say okay.
I think that's true for a lot of us. You know, over the years, I went through many phases where I got tired of being a musician because it is a hard life, and you never know where the next paycheck's coming from. And I actually, at one point, spent 2 years getting an electrical contractor's license, only to find out that I hated it. So.
Yeah.
And I went back to music, you know.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. In college, my first few years, I was a pre-med major. Wow. I was going to be a doctor. And then I decided, that's not really my thing. There's nothing wrong with it. I was good at it. I just didn't really have the heart for it. And music just kept bringing me back, you know. It's just I was getting a lot more jobs. I just didn't know what kind of jobs one could get, you know, because in music a lot of people think, well, you're going to teach, which is true. I mean, you are going to teach. That's a big part of it. But there's a lot of things out there, you know. There's being a pit musician. There's being a composer. You can work for a church. You can do arranging and all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot of things out there. You just need to do some research.
Yep.
So yeah,
dig around. Well, what was it that really got you excited about film scoring in the first place?
Well, you know, we all have, you know, that one score that we just love, and well, of course, you know, John Williams is the god among us men, who I've met once, and who is a generally nice man. I don't even think he knows who he is.
Wow.
He's like that nice. He doesn't know who he really is. It's like, which is great. But for me, it was actually Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, with Kevin Costner. It was that score was one of the scores, and of course, Back to the Future.
Oh wow!
You know,
yeah.
Some of the good stuff, which is like, again, you don't really know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a kid, I didn't know what that stuff was. I just knew I loved it, and I knew the moment I heard it, I was like, yes. and then of course, you know, being someone who plays sports as well, Rudy was a great score that I just heard and just got all emotional about, and I just loved it, and I didn't know why. I did until I started to really get into it. So that's kind of what it was. It was just that kind of was the bug.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, in school you're trying to find your path, and then I really got the bug when I scored just a short film, and to see the piece that you are starting to write come together, and to see it be attached to the film, and you see it kind of breathe a new life, is such a high and such a drug. You know, you kind of don't want to stop doing it.
For sure. Yeah.
But it's also very, very complicated and very hard. I always love to show the kids I teach now. I like to show them the things I'm working on the down low. And be like, this is what I get, and so I'll show them the scene with no music. And then I show them what I did to it, and they're always amazed that, you know, because the music, you're not supposed to hear the music.
Right.
You're if the music is too good, it takes away. So you got to find that nice balance. So.
Well, we have a clip of yours that you sent
Yes.
me, and in setting up the show as best I could,
Yeah.
all the technical stuff, I ended up watching it several times, and one of the things that really impressed me was the fact that I really felt like the music had become part of the storytelling, and I think the audience will see this when we watch the clip.
Oh no. What? Max, where do you think you're going? Oh, come on. Come on, what's taking so long?
No, there's no response yet.
Well, we gotta do something.
I know that, but
I got to say it, man. That's impressive. I liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the way it really folded into the scene, I thought it worked really well. So, now, when you're getting ready to put something like that together, how much do directors typically, give you hints or ideas of things they're maybe thinking of?
That's the very first thing I ask is, what do you want? What do you, and then I try to get some sort of vibe of what they want. Like, can you give me maybe a show that inspired you, or maybe a track that you like, or whatever, just to kind of get a hint of what they want. Because I just worked with I just did a film that I just got done with it, and there was just one scene that I just couldn't get right because our whole dialogue was wrong. She kept saying that it felt really heavy. I was like, okay, so maybe I'll just make it less instruments. So I took out some instruments, figuring she wants it smaller. Same comment. It still feels heavy, and then it clicked. She wants it to be in like a major key and not minor.
Yep.
So it's like things like that where you have to kind of learn the language.
Right.
And then I've had directors where they're very like they know what they want. They'll break it down by frame. From this frame to this frame, I want spy. This frame to this frame, I want love theme. It's just which is nice because it's the work's done for you. It's just fitting the puzzle. It's puzzle. And then I've had a few where they've just gone, go, don't score it.
So it's a real mixed bag. Yeah,
it's a mixed bag. I think a lot of it depends on, since we're talking about deadlines, the deadline. Most like the scene you just saw, I usually have to do the entire episode, which is about 20 minutes, in 2 days.
Oh, wow.
About 2 days. So I have to write about 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Which can be hard, especially when it doesn't come to you. When you're, because you gotta think, they're done with, the filming on like Tuesday-ish, and then I start scoring it on Wednesday, Thursday, and then we do a check on Friday to see if there's anything that needs to be fixed, and they air it Saturday.
Oh, wow.
So it's like it's that quick. Yeah, there's no room to stop.
So
Yeah.
if they don't like something Friday morning, basically by Friday
I gotta
afternoon,
fix
you
it.
better have
I
it
gotta
fixed.
fix it. I gotta fix it. Yeah. Well, I mean, by that point, they'll give you notes and be like,
Right.
I don't like it because of this, this is this, and then you can get a better sense of what they want, and then by the second time, it's usually fine. By the third time, for sure, it's what they want. You know.
Now, from a technology point of view, obviously, for something that you have to create on that kind of a deadline, then you're not going to be going into the studio with a live orchestra for that.
No,
You know,
no.
this is going to
Most
be
do
samples.
the big dogs.
Right.
You know, the ones who live down south. They do that. I would say about half of the stuff is live recorded,
Right.
and the other half is not. Like, you know, like a lot of the drums, synthesizer stuff, bass, and the guitars are all
Sure.
done inside their place, and then but the live strings and the brass and all that
Right.
stuff is done live. But yeah, that's all done in a day as well.
Wow.
But there's a team of people, so if I was doing a big show for like Fox or whatever, I would score it and then send my score stuff to a team member who fixes it, who sends it to an orchestrator who does the full score, who sends it to a copyist who does the parts, and then and this is like scene by scene. It's like a circle that just does not stop.
Wow.
Yeah. So you better like to not sleep. If you enjoy sleep, you're in the wrong business.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you get the clip, you get the show or
Yep.
the movie that you're getting ready to do. What do you kind of do to get started, to get into setting up the score?
I first make some coffee.
Okay.
Gotta get the coffee going. I will. So if it's a brand new show or film that I've never seen before, I will sit back and then I'll watch it like an audience member. That to me is important, to sit back and not take notes, just sit back and watch it.
Okay.
And then you kind of get a vibe of like what can kind of go there. You start to get some ideas, and then I'll watch it a second time, and then I'll make my notes of like what I want to hit, and then I start on the key scene that I watch, and I'd be like, okay, that's the climax. I know what to do there, and then that's what I tackle first, which usually develops the sound of the film or the show, and then I kind of spread it out, and then incorporate themes throughout, you know, to make it have more sense.
Okay. Now, I've heard in movies and even TV shows where there seems to be two kind of basic scores that you generally hear, where the music basically starts as soon as the title board comes up, doesn't end until the credits are done, and I just, you know, my term for that is end to end. But then other movies, it just seems like there's music only in key parts.
Yeah.
And I call that a clip or cue
Cue,
score.
yeah, there's cues, yeah.
Are there like different types of setups like that are considered standard in the industry, and the director will come
Well,
to you and say,
again, it all depends on what the director and the producers have envisioned, because you need to remember, as the film composer, you are their employee.
right,
You're not your own, like, let me be an artist and do something fun. And no, you do what they want, and that's what's hard. A lot of people don't like that fact that
right,
yes, there's room to kind of play and to kind of get your own sound and experiment, but if they want a scary sound and you give them some pop song,
Right.
I mean, they're gonna slap you, and
Right.
it's like you kind of have to do what they want, but in your own way.
Mm-hmm.
So in your own way is where your brain can have fun and be creative and develop some new sounds. But I would not say there is this is like the standard, because every score is different, even though it has the same type of like the foundations are there.
Right.
It's still somewhat, not always the same, which makes the job fun, because every time you do it, it's not the same. And there's been times where I've told directors, I don't think this needs to be scored. I think it's better without music.
Okay.
Because it's just, sometimes it gets in the way. Sometimes it's just, if the music's there, it just ruins it. Because it's either the person who's doing the scene, their acting is so good, you just don't want to get in the way of it. So there's times like I'll let them shine, and then I'll find some other place to shine. So,
yeah. Well, it's good that you have that kind of humility about it, because that obviously I think will lead to success in the future.
Yeah.
You mentioned John Williams and some
I
other
did.
films. Can you
Good old
tell us a
John.
little bit about some of the film score composers that you admire, and maybe
sure.
that you've met and gotten to talk shop with?
Yes. Okay. So John Williams, of course, is awesome. Michael Aquino, who did a lot of the Pixar stuff, like Up and the Incredibles.
Oh, okay.
I think he's so amazing as well. He does some complex stuff that just blows my mind sometimes. I'm like, that's really awesome. John Debney, who was one of my big guys at first. He did the Passion of the Christ.
Okay.
He was kind of known for doing the Passion. He's also did one of my all-time favorite Halloween films, Hocus Pocus. He did that score. You can't go wrong with Hocus Pocus. It's a classic.
Yeah.
And of course, James Horner, who's no longer, very sad, and Alan Silvestri, who did Back to the Future. Those are my main guys. I have met John Debney. I met him. He actually knew me, which freaked me out. Because I am a member of the Society of Composers and Lyricists, and once you have a certain amount of credits, you get to move up like the ranks. So I got invited to the Oscars for the composer side, because they have their own side thing for songwriters and composers.
Okay.
So I got to go to that for free, which I was like, sweet.
Neat.
and like all the main composers you've ever could have imagined, they were all there.
Yeah.
And I was just in heaven. I was just like, I know you all. But it's funny. John Debney, he walked by me and knew me. He goes, "Oh, hey Matt, what's up?" I was like, "What?" and he's really tall too. He's like 6'3", and I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'5".
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, "Oh, hey." So, but the thing I was surprised the most is how down to earth all of them are. There's
cool.
no like real jerk, I guess you can say, who's like, "Oh, I'm the best." No, like they're all just like normal people.
Cool.
And just chill. It's really, and I think that's a lot of the job too, because we can't be attached to our music because it can easily be tossed the next day.
Yeah.
So we can't. So we're kind of like, okay, whatever. Because a lot of us are just super chill.
Well, that's neat.
So yeah, I'm very blessed to have experienced that kind of stuff, and yeah, so it's definitely cool.
That's neat. Well, once in a while you make a posting about some award you've won, and well, that's why we're labeling you award-winning film composer, Matt.
It's true.
So those are very cool, and can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, those are all from the clip that you saw. That's from a larger. It's from a series, but they made it. They made the pilot into a short film, and that's what they've kind of gone through the festival circuit for. And when it starts to go through that whole film festival stuff, you start to get awards that you have no idea even existed. So I mean, there were a few where I just got the Facebook post that I won the award for best score for this festival. I was like, I didn't even, okay, sweet. Goes on my resume.
Very good.
Goes on my website. It's just, but it's great. Again, I don't mind the awards. I mean, they're great. They're great, of course. But I'm just blessed to be able to write music. And then of course, because you always want to do your best, and it's great that some people would be like, "That's a really good score," and it makes you feel good and be like, "I thought so too."
And that's really the bigger award.
What?
That's really the best award, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. That's best award win. Yeah, but a lot of people would be like, that was really good. Especially those who I admire think it's good. I'll be like, you know what, dude? I'm done. Life's good. I can die happy. So.
Well, that's very cool. So, what's next in your rise as award-winning film composer?
Well, I just got done with a film that I had to write the score in 10 days, going back to the deadlines, the whole. That one just came. It just she asked for some help, and I said sure. And I've always wanted to see how fast I could write a score, because I always hear these people who say, I had to write a score in like a few days, or I had to do it in like a week. I'm like, I want to see if I can do that, because I've never had to write I think it was 90 minutes plus of score in like 10 days. Yeah, I mean it was don't sleep. Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, I'm still recovering, and that was like last week. I'm still recovering, but yes. So what is on my next list is I'm scheduled for 2 faith-based films.
Okay.
Which I've read the scripts for both, and they're both fantastic. I think they're going to be well received. They're so good, but of course we have to wait for COVID to lift, because they're all ready to shoot. The cast is all in place. They're ready to go. It's just they have to wait for that to lift, because there's a lot of crowd stuff, because they're both faith-based sports films.
Okay.
One is baseball, and then one is volleyball. Okay. Which incorporate large crowds, and so they have to kind of wait and get the funding for certain things, which is okay. It will allow me to kind of start to work on themes now and sounds now, so it gives me something to do. But,
there you go. Well, yeah,
But
you
yeah,
know, you actually get a rare head start on a thing. So
yeah, a rare head start. Yeah, because there's a lot of times you don't. You kind of like like the one I just did. Because like I shot her an email months ago saying,
Mm.
hey, I see you're doing this film. If uh, uh, you need a composer, and I never heard back from her, and then she randomly shot me an email, and I started that same day. So
There
like
you go.
we met through Zoom, and we kind of discussed what I could do with it, and got the film. And I started that night, and didn't stop until it was over. But yes, and the other thing is you have to to do this job. You have to be adaptable
All right.
because the film or scenes will change day by day.
Yeah.
So a scene you're scoring for one whole day could be gone the next day, or be cut in half because they feel it's too long, or extended because they want more. So you have to be able to just go with the flow and have to be able to adjust very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And Matthew, this has been really, really fascinating. And I have to thank you so much for being
Of
my
course.
first ever guest on my little Sunday broadcast, and putting up with all the technical issues we ran into along the way. And
We got it done.
We got it done. All right. Thank you
That's
so
important
much. And
Of course.
we'll have you on again sometime in the near future.
Sounds good to me.
We'll talk
All right,
to you
thank you
later.
so much.
Best of luck.
All right, bye.
Matthew's a very, very interesting guy, and I've actually known him for a number of years. And I met him when he was still writing music for his, I guess, end of his master's degree at Fresno State. And we've actually played together. We were part of the keyboard team on, I think, 2 of the Fresno Philharmonic regular concerts. So just fascinating guy, and doing a really interesting job. So, and those deadlines, they're important, but they can also be deadly. And on January 28th, 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded shortly after takeoff. And this was actually the first time in my life that I had ever not watched a space launch live. I had class that day, and after class I stopped by my parents' house, and shortly after that my brother burst in the door and said that the space shuttle had exploded. We turned on the TV, and of course the playback was just on this continuous loop. And that kind of bugged me, because 7 people died. Francis R. Shobi, Michael J. Smith, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Judith Resnick, Gregory Jarvis, and Krista McAuliffe. And just like the Apollo 1 disaster, we were all told that the crew died instantly. Well, the NASA controllers in Florida and Houston, they knew otherwise. And among the many disturbing findings found in the investigation was the reality that go fever had taken over at NASA, and many warning signs had simply been ignored. In this case, sticking to that rigid deadline became deadly. Now, fortunately for most of us, we work in professions where if we make or don't make a deadline, it's not really going to hurt anybody. And as much as I love space exploration, I know very well that I am far better suited to be an entertainer. Now, when I was putting this monologue together earlier this week, got caught up in my love of space travel and in trying to illustrate both the purpose and peril of deadlines. We ended up examining 2 NASA disasters. Well, the thing is, many people have died in the pursuit of space exploration, not just astronauts. Test pilots, experimenters, support crew, countless others. So I wanted to write some music that would give honor to those people. And I chose to take a little bit of a spiritual slant on this. And I don't want to get into my particular religious views, but I think the title pretty much says how I feel about those that have given their life for such a high cause. So this piece is called Forever Among the Stars. Well, thank you so very much for joining me today, and thank you, Matthew David Wheeler, for joining us as well. Please leave a gratuity at either Venmo or PayPal. Find those links in the show description. And of course, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Facebook, and become a supporter over on Patreon, where you can get exclusive content you'll find nowhere else. All of those links in the show's description. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.